A few weeks ago, I sat down and actually counted the ingredients in the granola bar I was about to eat. 14. I couldn't pronounce 4 of them on the first try. And it got me wondering, what did people actually snack on before snack food became a $200 billion industry? So I went looking, and the answer surprised me. Long before ingredient labels existed, people across the ancient Near East were eating combinations of fruit, grain, dairy, and nuts between meals that researchers are now studying in real clinical trials, not because anyone told them to, but because it worked, and it kept working for thousands of years. I'm not talking about ceremonial food here, or rare delicacies reserved for kings. I'm talking about what an ordinary shepherd, farmer, or traveler would have reached for on an average day. These 10 pairings show up throughout the Bible almost in passing, the way you'd casually mention what's in your own fridge. And that's exactly what makes them worth a closer look. I went through the nutrition research behind each one, and a couple of the results genuinely stopped me mid-search. Here are 10 snacks from Scripture that were quietly doing serious biochemical work long before anyone had a name for it. Number 1. Figs and honey. Start with a question. If a king in the ancient world was dying from an infection, what would you actually do for him? Not pray, but physically do. In 2 Kings 20, the answer is startlingly specific. King Hezekiah is gravely ill with what the text calls a boil, and the prophet Isaiah doesn't just offer comfort. He orders a paste of pressed figs applied directly to the wound. Hezekiah recovers. For a long time, that detail got filed away as folk remedy and left alone. Then researchers actually looked at what's inside a fig. Figs contain phycin, an enzyme that breaks down damaged tissue, along with compounds called psoralen and benzaldehyde that show measurable antimicrobial activity in lab studies. Fresh fig sap, the milky latex that oozes from a broken stem, has been shown to slow bacterial growth on contact. Whatever Isaiah was doing, it wasn't superstition. Figs aren't just topical medicine, though. Eaten whole, they're one of the most mineral-dense fruits available. Real amounts of calcium, magnesium, and potassium, plus a soluble fiber called pectin that feeds the bacteria living in your gut. Most people don't think of fruit as a gut health food, but figs quietly are one. Now pair that with raw honey, actual raw honey, unheated and unfiltered, not the bear-shaped bottle from the gas station shelf, which has usually been pasteurized until most of what makes it useful is gone. Raw honey generates hydrogen peroxide on contact with tissue, keeps a pH low enough to be inhospitable to many pathogens, and contains a protein called defensin, one that actively breaks bacteria down. This isn't folklore. It's the same reasoning behind medical-grade Manuka honey, which hospitals still use in wound dressings today. One thing worth knowing, if you have small kids around, raw honey in any form isn't safe for babies under 12 months because their digestive systems can't yet handle the bacterial spores it can occasionally carry. Everyone past that age gets the full benefit. Eaten fresh at peak ripeness with a spoonful of raw honey drizzled over the top, this isn't just something sweet to end a meal. It's 2 ingredients doing the combined work of an antimicrobial and a multivitamin, and one of the oldest snack combinations still eaten almost exactly the same way today. If a fig can help close a wound, imagine what a fruit mentioned more than 1,000 times across the Bible and the Quran combined was actually being used for. 2. Dates stuffed with almonds. If you had to cross a desert on foot for 3 days with only what fit in a small pouch, what would you actually bring? Not what sounds impressive, what would keep you alive and functioning. Traders, soldiers, and pilgrims across the ancient Near East answered that question the same way for centuries. Dates and almonds. Dates are the single most mentioned fruit across the Bible and the Quran combined. And it isn't just about flavor. They're dense with natural sugar, shelf-stable for months without refrigeration, and they travel without bruising. A handful delivers fast glucose and fructose for immediate energy, but unlike a spoonful of table sugar, that sugar arrives bundled with fiber, magnesium, potassium, copper, and B vitamins that slow the release and put it to actual use in the body instead of just spiking it. Clinical research has linked regular date consumption to improved iron status, better bone density, and in one line of study, I didn't expect smoother, shorter labor in pregnant women during the final weeks before delivery. Almonds carry their own weight in scripture. In Numbers 17, it's an almond branch that miraculously buds on Aaron's rod, chosen deliberately because the almond tree is the first to blossom every spring in the region. Ahead of anything else, it became a symbol of watchfulness, of something waking up before you expect it to. Nutritionally, almonds back up the symbolism. A single ounce covers over a third of your daily vitamin E, a fat-soluble antioxidant that protects the membrane of every cell it reaches. They're rich in magnesium, monounsaturated fat, calcium, and fiber. And multiple studies show regular almond eaters have measurably lower LDL cholesterol, smaller post-meal blood sugar spikes, and the part that surprised me most, more diverse gut bacteria than people who skip nuts entirely. Put the two together, and you get a genuinely elegant piece of nutrition. Slice a date open lengthwise. Press 3 or 4 raw almonds into the center, and you're holding fast-acting energy from the fruit, balanced by slow-digesting protein and fat from the nut. It's a macronutrient balance any modern sports dietitian would approve of, assembled with 2 ingredients and 0 equipment, long before anyone had a word for macronutrients. I keep a bag of these in my car for the exact afternoons I'd otherwise be tempted by a vending machine. It works better than I expected it to. That same principle, fruit plus something rich, comes right back in the next entry, this time built around a compound that shows up almost nowhere else in nature. 3. Pomegranate seeds with yogurt. Walk into Solomon's temple in your imagination and look up at the 2 massive bronze pillars flanking the entrance. Carved into them, by the hundreds, are pomegranates, not vines, not wheat, pomegranates specifically. The fruit shows up again, woven into the hem of the high priest's robe in Exodus 28, and it fills the imagery of the Song of Solomon as a stand-in for abundance and beauty. This wasn't a random decorative choice. It was a statement about what the fruit represented. Modern antioxidant research is still working out how justified that statement was. Pomegranates contain punicalagin, a compound that barely exists anywhere else in the plant kingdom. Once it reaches your gut, punicalagin breaks down into a family of compounds called urolithins, which have become one of the more interesting threads in aging research. Over the past decade, there's now a growing body of work looking at whether urolithin A can support how aging muscle cells recycle their own damaged components. That's a long way from eat a pomegranate and get younger, but it's a genuinely active area of study, not a stretch. More established research already shows pomegranate juice lowering blood pressure, reducing oxidation of LDL cholesterol, improving arterial flexibility, and lowering inflammatory markers like CRP. Gram for gram, its polyphenol concentration outranks red wine, green tea, and blueberries, 3 foods that already have strong reputations in this department. Here's where the pairing gets interesting. Add those seeds to traditionally fermented yogurt. the kind made the way it would have been made in the biblical world. From goats or sheep's milk with live active cultures, and you're not just adding flavor, you're adding a colony of beneficial bacteria that the pomegranate's fiber then directly feeds. Prebiotic plus probiotic in one bowl. That's a relationship, gut health. Researchers have spent the last 20 years formalizing into an entire field, and people were doing it by instinct millennia earlier. Spoon fresh pomegranate seeds over a bowl of plain, unsweetened yogurt. A little honey on top, if you want it. What you're left with is a snack quietly addressing your heart, your gut, and your inflammation levels at once, which is a lot to ask of something that takes 90 seconds to put together. There's a reason temple architects thought this fruit deserved to be carved in bronze. What follows is a food that shows up in the Bible more often than almost anything else, because it was on literally every table, every day. 4. Olives with flatbread. Here's a strange thing about olive oil. It's mentioned in the Bible more than 140 times, more than almost any other single substance. Kings were anointed with it. In Luke 10, the Good Samaritan doesn't bandage the injured stranger. First, he pours oil into the wound before anything else. In the ancient world, olive oil wasn't a cooking ingredient sitting quietly on a shelf. It was closer to a medicine cabinet in liquid form. The whole olive, before it's pressed into oil, was just as central cured in brine, packed into clay jars, eaten daily by everyone from field workers to royalty. Extra virgin olive oil, specifically, has become one of the most exhaustively studied foods in modern nutrition science. Its signature compound, oleocanthal, produces a peppery bite at the back of your throat when you taste a really good bottle. And that same compound works through a similar anti-inflammatory pathway as ibuprofen. Researchers actually stumbled onto this after a scientist noticed the throat-catching sensation reminded him of swallowing liquid ibuprofen, and went looking for why. The Mediterranean diet, built around olive oil as its foundation rather than an accessory, has been the subject of hundreds of clinical trials, linking it to lower rates of heart disease, several cancers, cognitive decline, and death from any cause. Few dietary patterns in the world carry this much research behind them. Whole olives, eaten with the skin intact, carry that full spectrum of polyphenols, along with vitamin E, copper, iron, and heart-healthy monounsaturated fat. Pair a handful with a piece of dense, whole-grain flatbread, the kind made from emmer or barley flour, unleavened and hearty rather than airy, and you've got fiber, slow-digesting carbohydrate, healthy fat, and antioxidant compounds your body recognizes and uses efficiently, no processing required. This wasn't special occasion food. It was Tuesday lunch for an ordinary person in the ancient Near East. And what ordinary people ate every single day lines up almost exactly with what modern researchers now consider one of the most protective dietary patterns ever studied. Sometimes the answer really was sitting there the whole time in the plainest possible form. Speaking of plain, ordinary food doing extraordinary things, here's a snack that comes straight from a phrase you've probably heard 100 times without ever picturing what it actually meant. 5. Goat cheese with honey. You've probably heard the phrase "a land flowing with milk and honey" without ever picturing what that milk actually was. It wasn't a carton from a refrigerated aisle. It was fresh goat's milk. Milked that morning, a fundamentally different food from what most people pour over cereal today. Goat's milk has smaller fat globules than cow's milk and a different dominant protein, a 2-casein. Instead of the A1 casein found in most commercial cow's milk. A growing number of researchers believe A2 casein, is meaningfully easier on human digestion, which may explain why people who react badly to regular milk often tolerate goat's milk just fine. When that milk gets cultured and aged into simple cheese, exactly how shepherds across the biblical world would have made it, with no equipment beyond a container and time its calcium, phosphorus, and medium-chain fatty acids concentrate significantly. One of those fatty acids, caprylic acid, has documented antimicrobial and antifungal properties in lab research. Fresh goat cheese also carries beneficial bacteria from the natural culturing process, which puts it in the same living food category as yogurt or kefir, rather than a sterile, shelf-stable product. Add raw honey on top, and you're layering caprylic acid's antimicrobial action with honey's own hydrogen peroxide production and its defensin. One protein, a combination that's actively unfriendly to the bacteria and fungi that make people sick, while delivering calcium, healthy fat, and live enzymes the body can use right away. There's something almost defiant about how simple this is. 2 ingredients. No cooking, no equipment beyond a knife, no waiting. And it holds up better under a microscope than most things marketed as superfoods at 3 times the price. This is what a shepherd ate on a hillside with nothing but a pouch and a blade, and it did more for the body than most people would guess is possible from something this basic. If cheese and honey seem almost too simple to matter, wait until you see what a handful of grain and a splash of oil pulled off for people who genuinely had nothing else. 6. Barley cakes with olive oil. Barley doesn't get much attention today. It's the grain nobody puts on a pedestal. But when Jesus feeds 5,000 people in John 6, using a boy's small supply of loaves and fish, the loaves in question are specifically barley bread, not wheat. Wheat was the grain with status. Barley was what soldiers, sailors, and day laborers actually ate, because it was cheap and grew where wheat sometimes wouldn't. It turns out the food ordinary people ate out of necessity happens to be one of the most gut-friendly grains ever put under a microscope. Barley contains more beta-glucan, a specific type of soluble fiber, than any other grain, enough that the FDA allows manufacturers to put a cholesterol-lowering health claim directly on barley-containing products, which is not a bar that gets cleared easily. Here's the mechanism. Beta-glucan forms a thick gel as it moves through your digestive tract. That gel physically slows how fast glucose enters your bloodstream, binds to cholesterol and helps carry it out of the body, feeds beneficial gut bacteria, and appears to support immune function along the way. Head-to-head studies have actually found barley outperforms oats, already considered one of the gold standard heart-healthy grains for controlling blood sugar spikes, after eating a simple barley cake or flatbread brushed with cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil. Stacks barley's cholesterol-lowering, blood sugar-stabilizing fiber directly on top of olive oil's anti-inflammatory oleocanthal and heart-protective monounsaturated fat. 2 unglamorous ingredients, working through completely different mechanisms, aimed at almost the exact same outcomes. I think about this one a lot, honestly, because it's the clearest example on this list of a food with zero marketing behind it that outperforms things with enormous marketing budgets behind them. Nobody was trying to sell barley cakes. People just kept eating them because their bodies responded well, generation after generation, until somebody eventually ran the studies and confirmed what had already been obvious for 3,000 years. Next, here's a combination built around a plant that shows up in some of the most quoted lines in the entire Bible, paired with a nut that current research links directly to how well your brain ages. 7 grapes and walnuts. I am the vine, you are the branches. It's one of the most quoted lines attributed to Jesus, and it's not an isolated image. Grapes show up at Noah's first recorded act after the flood. They fill the Song of Solomon, and they anchor a huge share of the agricultural metaphors used throughout Scripture. The vine wasn't just useful, it was treated as sacred. Fresh grapes, eaten with their skins on, deliver resveratrol, quercetin, and anthocyanins, and resveratrol in particular has been one of the most closely watched compounds in aging research for the last 2 decades. It activates a class of proteins called sirtuins, involved in cellular repair. I'll add an honest caveat here, because most of the truly dramatic lifespan results, mice and worms, living meaningfully longer, come from lab studies using concentrated doses far beyond what you'd get from eating grapes. That doesn't mean the actual fruit does nothing. The skin and seeds carry real fiber, potassium, vitamin C, and vitamin K, alongside those polyphenols. It just means longevity. Fruit is a headline that deserves a footnote. Walnuts are the more slam dunk half of this pairing. They're the richest plant source of omega-3 fat in the form of alpha-linolenic acid, and consistent research links regular walnut eating to better cognitive performance, lower inflammatory markers, reduced LDL cholesterol, and a more diverse gut microbiome. Their polyphenols, specifically compounds called L-argitanins, get converted by gut bacteria into the same urolithin compounds we ran into with pomegranates a few snacks back, which tells you something about how much overlap there is in the biochemistry behind foods that keep showing up in Scripture. Put a handful of whole grapes together with a handful of walnuts, and you've got resveratrol working on cellular aging pathways, omega-3s working against neuroinflammation, and polyphenols working against oxidative stress all at once, all from 2 foods you can eat with your hands standing at a kitchen counter. The ancient world didn't know the word sirtuin. They just knew the vine mattered enough to build their most memorable metaphors around it. The biochemistry is only now catching up to explain why that instinct was right. Coming up is the exact combination that saved a dying man's life in the middle of the desert, and the Bible tells us precisely what it was. 8. Dried figs and raisins. In 1 Samuel 30, David's men come across an Egyptian man abandoned in the wilderness, left behind by his own party 3 days earlier with no food and no water. He's barely functional. The text is oddly specific about what they give him to bring him back. A cake of pressed figs and 2 clusters of raisins. Afterward, we're told, his strength returned and his spirit revived. Not vague comfort food, a precise combination, chosen deliberately, that worked. That specificity matters, because dried figs and raisins aren't interchangeable with just any sweet snack. Drying figs concentrates their minerals into a dense, shelf-stable package, real amounts of potassium, calcium, magnesium, iron, and B vitamins, held together by soluble fiber that slows digestion, feeds gut bacteria, and moderates how quickly the natural sugars hit your bloodstream. Raisins bring something slightly different. Rapid glucose for fast energy, resveratrol, tartaric acid that supports healthy digestion, and iron in a form that works well, alongside the fiber already present from the figs. Put those 2 together, and you've built almost exactly what a depleted body needs. In this order: fast sugar for immediate energy, steady fiber to prevent that energy from crashing, minerals to restore electrolyte balance, and antioxidants to start addressing the oxidative stress that comes with physical exhaustion. It's not a coincidence that this reads almost like a modern sports recovery formula. It's closer to the reverse. This ancient combination is part of the reason recovery science eventually arrived at similar conclusions. I keep a version of this mix in my bag on long travel days, and it does exactly what it apparently did 3,000 years ago. It keeps you upright when you'd otherwise be running on empty. No refrigeration, no packaging, no prep beyond opening the bag. Which raises an interesting question: if raisins and figs could revive an exhausted man, what was actually going on when Esau traded away his entire inheritance for a single bowl of stew? 9. Lentil dip with flatbread. Esau trades away his entire birthright for a bowl of red lentil stew, and for centuries that's read as a story about a man ruled entirely by hunger, making an absurd trade. But look closer at what lentils actually were in the ancient world, and the trade starts to make a little more sense, even if it was still a bad idea. Lentils weren't humble food. They were survival food, dense in calories, high in protein, able to sit dried in storage for years without spoiling, which in a world without refrigeration made them genuinely valuable. Nutritionally, they hold up around 18 grams of protein per cooked cup, one of the highest amounts in any plant food, plus iron, folate, zinc, magnesium, and potassium. Despite their carbohydrate content, lentils have a notably low glycemic index, meaning they release energy steadily instead of spiking blood sugar. Their fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria and helps lower cholesterol, and in population studies of the longest living communities on Earth, heavy legume consumption shows up again and again as a shared habit. A simple lentil dip: red lentils simmered down with cumin, coriander, and garlic, then mashed with olive oil until smooth, spread onto barley or whole wheat flatbread packs. An unusual amount of nutritional completeness into something this easy to make. Protein and slow-digesting carbohydrate from the lentils, anti-inflammatory fat from the olive oil, antimicrobial compounds from the garlic and cumin, digestive support from the coriander. Esau was hungry in the moment, no question. But zoom out, and the people who built entire diets around lentils were, on average, building some of the longest living bodies of the ancient world. The birthright trade wasn't really about lentils being worthless. It was about timing. He made the trade at exactly the wrong moment, for the wrong reason. Last on this list is a food the Israelites cried over in the middle of the wilderness, and once you understand what it actually does, you might feel a little sympathy for them. 10. Cucumbers with salt and vinegar. Picture this. You're wandering through a wilderness, eating the same manna every single day, and you break down crying, not over safety, not over freedom, but over vegetables. That's literally what happens in Numbers 11. Woo! The Israelites list exactly what they miss from Egypt: fish, cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. Of everything they could have grieved, cucumbers made the list by name. That tells you something about how central this food was to daily life, and how sharply the body notices when something it needs regularly disappears. Cucumbers are roughly 96% water, making them one of the most hydrating foods that exist in solid form. But they're not just water in a green wrapper. They contain cucurbitacins, compounds studied for anti-inflammatory and antioxidant activity, along with silica that supports connective tissue health, vitamin K for blood clotting and bone strength, and a solid dose of potassium and magnesium for electrolyte balance. Slice them and dress them with a pinch of sea salt and a splash of vinegar, the way they'd have been prepared in traditional Egyptian and broader Middle Eastern food culture. And you add 2 layers that matter more than they sound like they should. Sea salt supplies trace minerals and helps the body actually absorb what the cucumber's water and nutrients are carrying. raw apple cider vinegar, made with the cloudy mother still intact, has shown in several clinical trials that it can improve insulin sensitivity, blunt the blood sugar spike after a meal, and support digestive enzyme activity. Of everything on this list, I think this is the most underrated by far. 3 ingredients, 0 cooking, less than 2 minutes of effort, and the people who had access to it cried when it was taken away. Once you understand why, it's hard to write this one off as just a vegetable ever again. Here's what stuck with me after going through all 10 of these. None of it was special occasion food. No feast, no ceremony, no king's table. This was Tuesday. This was what a farmer, a shepherd, or a tired traveler reached for without thinking twice. The same way you'd grab whatever's closest in your own kitchen. And yet almost every single pairing on this list turns out to be doing quiet, measurable work, regulating blood sugar, feeding gut bacteria, fighting inflammation, replacing minerals that ordinary daily life burns through. Nobody involved was running a clinical trial. They just kept eating what made them feel functional, generation after generation, until the pattern became tradition, and the tradition eventually became scripture. I don't think the lesson here is that you need to start pressing your own goat cheese or growing barley in the backyard. It's smaller than that. It's noticing that ordinary and nutritionally sophisticated were never actually opposites. We just started treating them that way sometime in the last 100 years. Once food started coming from factories instead of fields. If I had to pick just one of these 10 to actually build a daily habit around, it would probably be the dates and almonds, mostly because it's the one that's quietly replaced an actual bad habit of mine. One vending machine trip at a time. But honestly, any of these beats what most of us are reaching for at 3 in the afternoon. Worth thinking about. Next time you're standing in front of an open pantry trying to decide what to eat between meals.